This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC on location, Ursa 2019 San Diego. I'm here with a new friend of mine, Shawn Stewart, COO of O2 Fitness, hailing from Raleigh, but his background is based in Florida and NFL-related sports and conditioning. So, Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So why don't you first give people your background on, how you started out, how you got into the industry, and then you and I will talk about what it takes to operate a multi-unit operation, and if we've got general managers out there that want to potentially, in 3 to 5 years say, hey, I'm running a bigger operation, they know what it's going to take to kind of man up and get ready to do something like that.
Absolutely. So I got started in this industry in '94. I was a freshman at the University of Florida, and ironically, my sister, she was a senior when I was an incoming freshman, and she was working at a local health club, Gainesville Health and Fitness. She was working with Joe Cirulli, and when I moved to Gainesville, I lived with her, and she, of course, said, if you're going to live with me, you're going to have a job. So she hired me.
No free rides
with
the oldest sister.
So she hired me basically to do some cleaning, set up machines, and just do some basic stuff, and I ended up being there for over 20 years.
Wow.
So one thing that I really enjoyed about my time there was I got to do basically every aspect of this industry. You name it, I've done it. And that really helped me in the experience going from one club to now overseeing 30 clubs to still really be in touch with the frontline staff, teaching, coaching, every aspect of the business. And when you look at a company that size, one of the most challenging things is to get inside of every club on a regular basis. So
right.
my goal is to be inside of every club at least once a month.
Gotcha. And how far, just so people understand, like the scope of O2, what are the parameters or the
Sure.
Scope of the territory?
Yeah, our 30 clubs are spread out between North and South Carolina. We're in the Triangle market, the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill market. We're in the Wilmington market,
okay.
And the Greater Charleston market. And next month we will open up our first club in Greensboro, which will be a new market for us.
Great. So let's focus first on what you just talked about, which was basically, you started at the ground floor, and I've toured clubs. I've been doing this now for, since 1999. So when I toured clubs with a guy who had one club, his ability or her ability to go around and basically, pick up something on the floor or wash the mirror. Like they don't even think about they're not marketing to me. Like I'm going in there as their advisor or their friend. They're walking me through the club, but they instinctually say like, hey, look, this is like my house and I'm going to treat it like my house. And if I treat it like this way, then my employees see that I'm doing it. So they picking up garbage in in the parking lot. They're like cleaning a window. They're like pointing things out, like that shirt's, turned around or the hanger's not the right way. So, and they understand each component to the business and because they did it before. So, spend a little time, what have you learned over time and whether it's attention to detail, whether it's eye contact, what are some of your hot buttons where you say this is the way I do things, this is the way I used to do them, and this is how you're going to do them?
Ironically, I was able to catch up with someone yesterday who we worked together in Gainesville 25 years ago.
Okay.
And we were talking about just this topic of how through our careers we've had an opportunity to do every aspect, from working the kids club, working the front desk, putting in systems, creating everything. And he made the comment because he's now a CEO, he said, I really appreciated that experience because he never had to be afraid to have the wrong person doing a job because he could always step in and do it himself.
Got it. Interesting.
And I looked at it and I said, I looked at it a little bit differently from the standpoint of, even though that was certainly the case throughout my career, what I enjoyed the most about doing that is, to this day, when I do club visits, I can coach every aspect of any job. Mm-hmm. And it's one of my favorite things I get to do is go into a club and pull a cleaner aside and say, hey, you're doing a great job. Let me show you how to do that a little bit better. Let me show you this. What ideas do you have for me? And to be able to coach every aspect is critical in everything that we do.
So just so people know on the show here, our audience, that you worked with NFL players, and how did that experience of basically there's a way you just said something that I've been around other people, and instead of like reprimanding or like scolding, someone and saying like you got to do it my way, it's like, hey, let me show you the way that you could do this better. So when you were a strength coach with elite athletes, how did you think about like, hey, I can't like, I have to say this in a certain way for it to resonate, because they don't need me lecturing them, but they need me knowing that I actually am coaching them up.
Absolutely. It's completely different when you're talking about that level of athlete. And the attention to detail was so critical in their strength gains.
Right.
There's such a science at that level in working with elite athletes that if you just miss one tiny little thing, it can destroy the results they're going for.
Right. Or I could probably injure them as well, right?
And
good point.
They also are not looking for the rah-rah.
Right.
They're looking for the mindset, the brain, the knowledge. And it takes it to a completely different level.
So when you look at right now with O2, you're your COO, you got 30 locations. How do you get comfortable with saying like, look, here's what I can control, here's what I can't control, here's like processes and systems I can put in place, and here's things that I got to just like constantly coach people up. I got to be in the clubs, and I got to like reinforce it. Like, what have you done to be able to sleep at night and be able to say, look, I got this thing operating at like 90+%, but like, it's 30 clubs. Like, I can't do everything, and there's no way to quality control everything. How do you think about that?
It starts with understanding that all great companies, all great sports teams, all great organizations, doesn't matter, are built on a 3-tiered pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid is the foundation. If you don't have those foundational principles in place, you're dead.
So it's kind of like the culture, I guess, if you will.
Culture, vision, mission, values in which you run every decision by, the core competencies of what you stand for.
Yep.
It's the barriers that you don't go outside of. The second part of the pyramid are the systems. You have to have systems that people are willing to execute perfectly, flawlessly, 100% of the time. So that what you're doing in Charleston is the exact same way service that you're giving in North Carolina, Greensboro, Chapel Hill, and so forth. The top of the pyramid are the people. And when you have the first two in place, you don't have to always find the best people. You have to find the right people. And the right people are the ones who will execute the systems that are built on the foundation. And so when I started 3.5, almost 4 years ago, 24 clubs meant 24 different cultures, 24 different ways of doing things. And so that's where everything started, was laying the foundational principles, putting in the systems so that we can then hire the right people to execute those systems.
So how strategic are you when you're going through the hiring process, or how, like, what happens? What positions do you approve, and what positions do you basically, set parameters? Like, we want these types of people. I mean, I've been thinking more and more about my business as like I'm like an offensive coordinator. Well, like I watch that guy, like the Rams coach. Like, I love that guy. He's like, I got these like laminates right now. I'll just show you one of my laminates, and I feel like I start talking to people like, all right, dude, this is what we're working on. I like have it like in front of my face, almost like as a joke, but I'm kind of serious, And so how much control do you give, and how much is it like based on like, all right, if I set the foundation right, and everyone knows what play we're running, then I just hire the right people, and they hire the right people. How do you think about that?
Absolutely. It starts with putting a hiring process together, training everyone who does it, and really taking it to a different level. I'm a big believer most people don't know how to interview other people.
Sure.
They know how to ask questions, they know how to nod their head, but they don't know really how to read people, how to dig. And so my entire hiring philosophy is about how do you put people in situations where they don't realize they're being interviewed, where it's unscripted, where they can't BS you with the typical Q&A.
What's your strengths and weaknesses, and what do people say about you that you need improvement?
And the same boring answers.
Right.
That
I'm an overachiever. I do too many things, right?
I lead by example. All the same cheesy answers. And so it's putting that system in place to have the team execute it. Now, I'm still directly involved with most leadership positions, any executive positions. I'll do the hiring, but I'm a believer in doing multiple interviews with multiple people in multiple environments. And so even for general manager positions, even though we'll have area directors and regional directors, I always do the last one, not even as an interview, but just to have a conversation. So I set the foundation for any potential leader who's going to join O2 Fitness.
Okay, so let's talk about the industry. Obviously there's a lot of segmentation going on right now, and when you and I started in the industry, in the late 90s, you'd be like, oh, what industry are you? I'm in the health club industry. Now it's like, all right, I'm in the low cost, high volume segment. I'm in the middle market, high amenity. I'm in the boutique. I'm in the country club market. So, maybe instead of me just telling people what I think about the middle market and like all the amenities, why don't you kind of define for our listeners here, where does O2 fit? What's the promise that you guys are delivering on, and how to, what's the price point and the value proposition?
Yeah, we're certainly in the middle, higher end middle. Our new clubs, our signature clubs, they're big clubs, beautiful clubs, high amenities. We don't do pools, but we do big turf areas, multiple turf areas.
Okay.
At our new club, we've got one that's almost half the size of a football field, and a lot of functional training. We specialize in nice cardio areas, nice amenities, and so forth. So we're in that middle, high value. And, it's funny because years ago, I remember people saying that wasn't a good space to be in.
Right.
And I think what happened was there's a lot of people who chose not to be in that middle ground, so they went one way or the other,
right,
which allowed us to really thrive by putting in the right systems to really specialize in that middle ground.
Yeah, so somebody was saying to me the other day, oh, the middle market's dead. I'm like, do you know that the middle market has got group exercise classes, and those group exercise classes are what basically 25-30% of the people want. They don't want to necessarily just go to a Planet Fitness and get on a treadmill. They also need and want and must have daycare, because a lot of people in where I live in New York, or in LA, they've either got their kids in like some kind of after school program, or they've got a nanny, and like people don't necessarily think about. In most suburban markets, if you got a kid between, 3 months and 5 years old, like they're coming with you.
Absolutely.
Like I used to go to like the, carpet store with my mom, and I just saw, I think it was like a Seinfeld episode or something. They're talking about like when a kid's under 5, like they just walk around with their mom to wherever their mom's going, and like at some point their legs just give out and they're just laying on the floor.
Absolutely.
So being able to get a workout in and be able to drop your kid off for like $1 or $2 per visit, or as part of the membership, I mean, is a huge component, I think, to the middle market that people don't fully appreciate.
And that part of it's key and critical to what we do. And our new clubs, we're building beautiful kids clubs. And engaging with the children is probably more important than engaging with the parents. Yeah.
So, as you look forward and you say, okay, here's where O2's positioned now. Obviously, you got one club in the works, and and I know Michael and what he's been able to do, and on the family side and their growth and their background. Do you see this as a regional play? Do you have aspirations to go bigger? Do you say, hey, look, we're delivering on a promise, and we'll grow as we desire to, but we're not wed to any investment time horizon, or we'll grow when it feels right? Or how do you think about that?
Absolutely, and I think over the last few years we've really been able to hone in on what our core competency is as a business. It's not just any acquisition that gets put in front of us. We will grow as the opportunity shows it. Yep. I still look at the current 30 clubs and feel like we have so much work to do to make those better.
Sure.
And we will wake up every day to say, how do we just get a little bit better? at what we're currently doing, and then we will go look at other markets, current markets. How do we solidify those? And like you said, we'll grow as the opportunity presents itself. We are not tied to a number. If 5-10 years from now comes and we're still at 30 clubs, we'll be 5 to 10 years better at those 30. If we're at 100, then we'll know that we made the right decisions based on our core competencies.
Got it. So just a couple like technical or like organizational questions, as you've grown and being the COO of this business, what's the appropriate number of clubs for like a district manager or regional manager, where you say, okay, look, you're responsible for these 6 or 8 or 10. Like what's like your comfort zone? Giving someone a regional or responsibility, because some people come into us and say like, all right, when I get to this, what's my org chart look like? And there's different views on it. Like there's one guy I know who's got like 62 direct reports, and I'm like, bro, you need to man up a little, because this ain't gonna work for too long.
Yeah, for us, and it's something I've been playing around with for the last few years, and our sweet spot right now is an area director that will oversee 3 to 5 clubs, depending on the size, depending on the market.
Okay.
And then we have a regional that oversees all of North Carolina and a regional director that oversees all of South Carolina.
Gotcha. And then what do you do on the billing side? Who do you work with on that front?
Club ready.
Gotcha. And working on the outsourced billing that allows you to grow without having to have your own, like a couple guys that still have their own tech teams and software development, so on and so forth. So that's working.
It is. There's always going to be challenges, and but it certainly allows us to grow as needed.
Great. So any from as you kind of grew into your management role, any like quotes that you throw out with your team, or like that's like a Shawn Stewart special, or anything that came across from like sports or anything else that you kind of hone in on and be like, okay, this is kind of always in the back of my mind?
I've got a few Shawnisms.
All right, fire them away, bro. I love these. I love it.
So one of my favorite quotes is, wise men learn from their mistakes. Successful men learn from other mistakes and don't make them to begin with. And as much as I want us to make aggressive mistakes because we're trying new things, I always challenge people to study successful people and learn from their mistakes so we don't have to make them.
Right.
Another one that I probably say 100 times a day, especially when I'm doing club walkthroughs, is we need to clean things. If you're cleaning something that's dirty, it's too late. And having that culture of keeping things 100% clean is the foundational principles of where everything should start when you're running a health club.
I like that. The only part I would differ on is on the clean things is my sister makes my niece and my nephew clean themselves like too much, where the fact that when there is a virus or something that like in the wind, like the kid doesn't have an immune system for it because he's never seen it before.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so he's like, he's got to live in a bubble. So we got to get him out of the bubble. But clean things, I think is one I'm going to have to use, and I'll give you props on that.
Thank you.
So, as you see the industry moving forward, in closing here, how do you feel about, where things have evolved over time? When, you used to say you work in the health club industry, my mom used to say to me like, oh, when are you going to get a real job? And, what is this? What trade show are you going to that supposedly is important, So like, how do you kind of feel about where we're at, the amount of capital that's coming in? Obviously there's pros and cons to big competitors, but it probably, typically makes you stronger.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating industry, and it's a fascinating time to be in the industry, but it can also be a scary time. That fear, I think, is what makes us better, makes us stronger, makes us think more. I'm doing a panel discussion tomorrow, and it reminded me 10 years ago when I was on a panel here at IRSA, and I think it was my 10th IRSA. And about halfway through, I stopped and started challenging the people on the panel that I was on with about, I'm hearing the same things that I heard 10 years ago. I'm hearing the same answers, the same responses. How do we creatively find a way to discount a membership? How do we bribe someone to retain them or to refer someone? And I told them then, now is the time that we have to be better at thinking of new ideas. And then I challenged the audience to do the same thing. I said, it's not just about us on this panel, it's about you in the audience challenging us and asking better questions.
That's a good point.
And I think we've come a long way, but there's still a lot of things in our industry that we're stuck in the old ages.
Yeah.
And moving forward with technology, if you're not embracing it, you're going to be dead.
Yeah, so it's definitely exciting times. I'm glad to hear about the growth of OTO. I'm glad we got to finally meet in person.
Great.
And look forward to your continued success. And let's keep in touch and see how things go, and then invite me over so I can hit some 40-yard dashes on the new turf
I'd love that.
in Greensboro. Yeah, I'll put on my tank top, maybe get my back shaved, and I'll be ready to roll.
Let's do it. Sounds good.
All right, man. Congrats. Good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Nice to meet you.